Okay, welcome back, everyone. And if you could please join me in welcoming our next presenter, Shirley Fontaine, manager of our NSIP, as she provides her first NSIP update.
Thank you very much, Candace. The first thing I want to note is that it's pretty hard to follow Jordan Tutu. I'm not that funny, and insurance just isn't that interesting. But this will be really quick. I just want to give you guys a brief overview of what's been happening. You all have our annual report. You can see from that report that from what I've written in there, that the financial results are actually still pretty good. Even with the claims that we've had to pay out over the last few years, we're still in a good positive position. We met with our underwriters both in Calgary and Toronto back in the fall, and we're very fortunate that one program that we have is the one that they really happen to like. So we had a positive message from all of the underwriters, very specific to the fact that we run a lot of loss prevention programs. That's actually one of the things that I want to mention, that we have the ability to give each and every community funds back for inspecting their buildings, number one. Number two, for their heater program. So as soon as the SAOs let us know that those have been done, we will send them a nice little check that they can help pay for things that they need in the communities. We don't tell them how to spend it. And it comes very, very quickly. We've got, this year we've had some good buy-in, and I'm pestering all of the communities because I want to see 100% payout for next year. So if you hear any of your SAOs saying that insurance lady is calling again, that'll be Michelle, that'll be calling. And so it's basically so that we can put money back in the jeans of all the communities. So that's why we do it. And with respect to a couple of changes that we've done this year, as of April 1st, in the past years, we have provided 3 hours of free legal services from Brownlee. And the reason we do that is because we want to make sure that you guys have legal counsel available to you. In the event that you need to make some of those hard decisions, we want to make sure that you've sought legal counsel, and most importantly, followed that legal counsel. That helps to maintain a lower claim rate. And so that's why this year what we've decided to do is we've decided to increase that from 3 hours to 5 hours. So every single community in our program, which by the way, we have 100% participation in with the municipal program, they will now get 5 hours of free legal advice from Brownlee. And that's something that I really encourage absolutely every community to take advantage of. It protects you as a community, it protects the council, and in turn, it allows us to maintain a nice low loss ratio for claims, which is always very, very important. The other thing to keep in mind with that as well is if your lawyer has told you that you can or cannot do something, you need to follow that. It is absolutely imperative that when legal counsel gives you advice, that you do follow that. On to the next is the appraisal program. We have, and he's actually right on the sign up there, Loss Control Consultants. They do our appraisal program, and that is a huge benefit that each community gets to use for asset management. And again, that's something that our program does pay for. And they come into your community, they assess for value what all of your buildings are, so that you don't ever have to worry that you don't have the correct values for replacement cost on your buildings. And they look at all of your vehicles, they look at all of your equipment. So that's another added benefit to the program, is we want to be there to help you. That's the whole idea of this program. So we want to take that burden off of you. So we have the loss control people go in. And we're very, very fortunate in the fact that Scott Cruikshank knows the communities very well. He's been working on this program for over 25 years. And prior to Scott, it was actually his dad, Doug. So we've been very, very fortunate, very successful. And the other thing is when there have been claims, his values have been tested and they are perfect. We've never had an issue with any of his values. So that's always a really good thing to find as well. I mean, we never want to have a claim, but if we do, we want to know that the values are correct. The other big thing is the fact that we've had good success with our loss prevention program. And because of that, the insurance companies really like the program that the Northern Communities Insurance Program has put together. It has evolved. When it first started, it was, you know, basically the basics. And over the years, it has evolved. We're actually fortunate to have a gentleman, and I'm using those terms very loosely, right over there. That is Ron Dennell. Please stand up, Ron. So Ron has come up for our 60th, and that gentleman right there was the man who really did the most on this because he brought it to the start. He ran it for 10 years and he made it very easy for the rest of us to come in and follow in his footsteps. His feet aren't that big, but you know, I've also known Ron for many years. I'm not gonna dwell on the financials, you guys have them. But the one thing that I will say is that our investment income has been very, very good. This year alone, we are going to be just about 5 million higher than what you see on this page. We have, we have 2 months left, and Glenn Bowie, who unfortunately had to leave to catch a plane, he gave me the numbers, and so we're looking at a really good financial position again. So again, when we make money, I want to be able to pass that money on to absolutely every community here. So that's why, like I said, you're going to hear from Michelle, and she's going to be asking all of your SAOs to fill in a few forms, and so that we can send you some checks, so we can get some money in your pockets.
That money goes to SAO bonus.
What he said. So that is it in a nutshell. You guys will find I'm not a speaker that's going to talk for hours and hours, and that's it. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
And most importantly as well, yes, Barb.
In the report under municipal grant inventory services, inventory grant, the municipal grant inventory services. The last line, it says offer solutions on how to acquire additional. Is there anything that goes after that? It just seemed like there was something missing.
Sorry, Barb. I can look into that. Where's she?
I'm not sure.
Page 5.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, how to acquire additional grants. Sorry, that was unfortunately missed with the printer. Sorry about that, Barb. Yeah, and the other big thing is please look at our website. Our website has a bunch of toolkits that are very relevant to each and every community, as well as it has all of the forms, the inspection forms on it. It has all of the forms for the boiler inspections. The boiler inspections, you're going to get $15,000 annually from us if you guys have inspected your boilers. And all that we require is the one form to be filled out by the contractor, and we send you the money. The other form is for your buildings, and they're not hard forms at all to complete. We highly recommend like either a director of public works or perhaps your fire chief. It takes about 4 hours. Dean from McClavic said that I could use his name. And it took Dean 4 hours and he completed all of the inspections on his building. And with that, he was sent a very nice sum of money that will help out his community. And I would love to be able to give each and every community money. It's why we're here. Any other questions? That's it.
Thank you, Shirley. Always love a good news story. Thank you. Okay, the Department of Municipal and Community Affairs has been a valued and steadfast partner of the NWTAC for many decades. Building strong, enduring partnerships requires dedication, collaboration, and a shared vision, qualities that MACA consistently demonstrates through its work with community governments across the Northwest Territories. MACA is committed to empowering community governments by strengthening their capacity to be accountable, self-directed, and effective in delivering safe, sustainable, and healthy environments for all residents. Guided by its mission, MACA works collaboratively with community governments and partners to support democratic, responsible, and transparent governance that benefits every resident. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Vince McKay, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs, and Deputy Minister Gary Brennan.
Thank you for those kind words about MACA. I just leaving session. Those are the nicest words about MACA I've heard all day. Appreciate that. Free legal service, does that include ministers? She didn't hear me. She's got money. She doesn't want to get shared. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vince McKay. I'm the Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. It's great to be here this afternoon and just provide some opening remarks for the department here. I will just start off by saying, it's this event for me holds a special place in my heart. A longtime former town councillor with the town of Hay River, although they probably don't want to admit to that. But also having sat on the board for NWTAC and being involved with this organization for a number of years. So it's good to provide some remarks for today. And I just know as you know, as a former town councillor, the work that you guys do is not always easy. It's very difficult. Sometimes it's very frustrating. And I just would like you guys to know that it doesn't go unnoticed. I know for sure when I hear from some of the councillors, the pressure that's being put on them in the communities to fix things and do things differently and stuff like that. And I really appreciate the hard work you guys do. This afternoon, you're going to hear from MACA and some of the things that the department does and the good work that the team at MACA does to support the communities. And one of the things that I've always said is in our travels is, and one thing I noticed as a former town councillor is we don't reach out to MACA enough when we probably should. They do have some good staff that have the resources or be able to maybe support you and directing you in a different direction for supports in your communities. I guess just with this, I want to encourage you guys to, over the next, well, you guys are one more day tomorrow. So over the next day or so, continue reaching out, working with your partners and collaborating and finding out what's going on in the communities. I just returned from a federal transportation meeting and hearing everybody's concerns and finding out that, the province of New Brunswick struggling just like us, and they're not even able to afford to potentially replace a bridge. So they might have to do a 30-some kilometer detour like this. These are infrastructure problems that we're having all across Canada. I don't know who's writing my notes for me, but it says I am looking forward to joining my cabinet colleagues tomorrow in the bear pit. I don't know what minister ever looks forward to that. No, I'm just kidding. I actually enjoy the bear pit. Bear pit's a good time, and I'm looking forward to the questions. Sucker for punishment. I remember being at the table drilling cabinet members, and here I am. So I'm looking forward to it. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Minister Gary Brennan to provide an update to Municipal and Community Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you to NWTAC for the invite. Congratulations again on the 60-year anniversary of your of your AGM here. So I got a bit of a long presentation that I'm going to try to get through fairly quickly. I do speak fast. Please let me know if I'm going too fast for anyone. I'm happy to slow down as much as possible. So today we're just going to take a quick run through here of a few little facts about MACA. I'm going to reflect on the last year and then look forward to the next year. I've been with MACA now for just under 2 years. First year was a bit of a, I guess, try not to swear too much here today, but a shit show for myself as had a lot to learn and about myself in terms of what I was doing there and also about your communities. And I felt like the first year was a good learning opportunity for me. Got to meet a lot of good people. I did manage to hit all the regions, although it took quite a while to do so. So I look forward to the next year where I have a little bit more knowledge in my skull now that I hope to bring forward and make some changes that are help improve the community. So we'll be meeting with Elgin next week. So this is probably pretty good timing to take some things away here that we can discuss with the SAOs next week. So, and we'll also talk a little bit about the budget, things that we have in the budget that hopefully will be approved next week when session's over. And then we'll open the floor for questions. And Minister McKay says he's open for questions, so we'll turn most of them over to him when the time is right. So MACA budget numbers, just want to give a little bit of a high level summary of who we are, what we are type of thing here. So our budget's $135 million. We give away the first $110 million to communities and other organizations, basically a flow through organization. So essentially that leaves us with about $23 million. We pay our staff and we got $7 million left for everything else. So that includes travel, emergency management, buying pieces of paper for our photocopiers, whatever the case may be. So Shirley has more money than MACA. We got $7 million total. So I just heard her say $5 million in insurance. So anyway, 115 staff across 5 regional offices, supporting 33 communities. We have 20 pieces of legislation, which is ridiculous for a department the size of ours, but there's lots of small pieces of legislation that we need. 29 policies, and obviously we have a good team. And to reiterate what Minister McKay said, we have staff in every region. Please reach out to them as you need. Like, these guys are there to help. We do suffer from capacity challenges like all communities as well, turnover and whatnot. But whenever there's a question, you should be reaching out to your regional folk and headquarters as required. Wrong button. Here's a picture of a long service award this year. We put this in here just to show that we've made a concerted effort in our department to improve employee morale. So that's one of the things that's very important to myself, is make sure people are happy when they come to work. So every region hosts an annual long service award. This one here was in Yellowknife. I was able to attend one in Fort Smith back in, I'm going to say January, thereabouts. And so we do put a real focus on that there. It means something to make sure that our folks are happy and want to come to work. It keeps people wanting to come back to work, keeps them staying in our department, and that ends up turning into better support for our region, so less turnover. So, and then I also just wanted to say is that, like, part of what we do in MACA, or I do in MACA, is that I have an open door policy whereby anybody can pop into my office at any single time or call me or email me. I don't care what your name is. I don't care what your job title is. And the same goes for community members. If you ever want to talk to me, please look for my information on the website, or I can give it to you, whatever the case may be. Happy to have a conversation. I don't have all the answers, but I'm always willing to listen and try our best as a department to help. So next, we have a couple of new faces on our senior management team. So one of these guys is here, Kevin Whitehead. He took over as the Director of Public Safety back in the summer. So Public Safety leads 911 Consumer Affairs in the Office of the Fire Marshal. And more recently, we hired Stephen Verhaag for Director of Finance and Admin. We never had a Director of Finance in the department before. We were the last department in the GNWT to get a finance director position. So we split our previous corporate affairs position into 2. We now have a Director of Policy, Legislation, and Communications, and we have a Director of Finance. One of the drivers behind this is the increased oversight required for emergency management. And the emergency management have cost about $350 million since 2021. I mean, we have more federal funding, which we'll touch on a little bit later, coming in the door. And it was just thought it was a good time to, put a little bit more oversight on the finances in the department. Next up, no one wants to see my face, but here it is. Catherine Boyd. So recently signed us on, this former ADM retired. She retired at the end of January, and I think this is Catherine's first full week as the Assistant Deputy Minister. She's in the background as well. Feel free to ask her questions. But really happy to have her. She brings 30 years of G&WT experience. A lot of it is in the policy shops across government and several departments. Very good knowledge about G&WT everything. And we also replaced Catherine from her Director of Corporate Services role with Margaret Lovely, who joined us Margaret started a week after I did, so I know exactly how long she's been there. And she's going to be the new Director of Policy, Legislation and Communications. So nice to have those two new faces on the team. And the next couple of slides we're going to skip through, but don't want, these people. These are your regional superintendents, Bobby, Christina, and Dana. Dana's not here this week, but Jean is here in her place. And also we have Melinda and Tara, our other regional superintendents, on the next slide. We're going to skip through these here. Tara's on leave this week, so she's not here, but David McMillan is here today in her stead. Allison Brown is the Director of Sport and Rec, and Grace, Allison's, I think, headed off to Calgary for an event with her kid, and then heading over to Arctic Winter Games after that. And Grace is back here. Grace is Director of Community Ops, Water Treatment Plants. And finally, we have Adrian Barrio. Adrian is our new Director of Emergency Management, if I can use that word, because he's been here about 13 months. And Lori took a one-year hiatus, went to ECC for a year, then found that the grass wasn't as green as she thought it was, and been back with us since December of last year. So we're happy to have her back as well. Lori's been around for a long time in the department. I'm sure you guys know her well. Now, the real work. So we'll talk a little bit about legislative agenda. So in government, what we do at the beginning of every term is the minister sets a legislative agenda, what he's going to do for this term. And this year it started off with two pieces of legislation were being made a priority: the Senior Citizens and Disabled Persons Tax Act and the Real Estate Act. And we'll touch on a little bit later, but one piece of legislation was added, and that's the Emergency Management Act because of the review of the after action review. For the senior citizens, we're hoping to get this to make some improvements this government and have it approved in this government if it all goes well. We have been delayed by some of the other work that we've been doing, and next we'll be working on a discussion paper, in which case we'll be reaching out to the communities to get their feedback. The Real Estate Licenses Act is actually in its third reading, so I think that's going to happen in this session. We have a presentation to standing committee next week on that. And the PATA 2, so this is being led by the Department of Finance. We worked with them with the working group to make some administrative type changes, and they'll take the lead and determine the schedule on that one. And then finally, the Fire Prevention Act. This was actually done in, I think, in maybe even the previous government or earlier in this government. And the last piece of the puzzle on that one is getting the positions in place for our Plan Review Appeal Board. Lots of trouble recruiting. This is mostly architects, engineer type folk. But we do have 7 people that are being evaluated right now, and we need 5 to get a quorum. So I think we'll have that finalized in the next few months. Next slide, please. Emergency Management Act review and update. So obviously this has been a highlight of the last few years. Since 2021, we've had disasters every single year, and that came off the backs of COVID. So we've been in emergency management mode since 2020. The Emergency Management Act, the 2023 events drove a fairly significant review of our emergency management system. The after action review was released this year with 35 recommendations. 34 were accepted, and the review is review of the act is one of the recommendations to make sure that it's up to date and meets the needs of our communities and our Indigenous governments, and as well as the residents of Northwest Territories. What the stage we're at right now is basically we have two working groups. One of the working groups is with the Council of Leaders, and the other working group is with NWT and Algan, so you folks. And I think they're meeting monthly now to go through the working the list of issues, known issues, and how we address those there. So the goal here is to address a legislative proposal at the beginning of the next assembly. iGaming. So we don't have any legislation that covers iGaming in Northwest Territories. The only thing we have is what covers lotteries, essentially. What we're doing here on this one is that we have an asking to government for funding to review iGaming, basically to do the research and engagement that's mentioned on here. And what we really need is socio-economic assessment. What does this mean to you guys? There was a table, I think it was this morning, an interactive table, just to provide a little bit of information to get an early sense of what are the community's feelings on this one. So we know that there is illegal gambling happening in the Northwest Territories right now, and the revenue from that is going somewhere not named Northwest Territories, whether it's offshore or other provinces in Canada, but we're losing revenue. The goal here is to put in regulations that could A, protect the consumers, and B, make sure that any revenue being spent on gaming stays in the Northwest Territories. So those two things, we're hoping to get the information to, again, draft an LP, which is a legislative proposal for the next government to consider. That work will start once the budget is approved, so in April, basically. On top of the legislation, we're doing a bunch of work on policies, the grants in lieu of property taxes. So for the taxing communities, they rely on this taxation for running their communities. Excuse me. So we'll be working on that. We're just getting started on that there, but it will be done in this government. Disaster assistance policy. We talked about this last year. I think even that there was a new DFAA, disaster financial arrangements, and I know that Minister Olszewski was online today. She may have discussed that. I'm not sure. But the feds changed their program, and we need to change our policies to make sure we keep up with the feds as our policy is built under the feds for their support, and B, make sure that it is meeting the needs of the residents of the Northwest Territories. So we hope to have that policy updated in the next 6 to 12 months. Again, one of the challenges that we have in MACA with a smaller department is that disaster high-risk season, we tend to focus on the actual emergencies and potential emergencies and getting ready. And then in the off season, we tend to do the updates to policies and whatnot. And there was a lot of effort that had to go in this year into the after action review and the recommendations, responses to the after action review. So we've managed to kick ourselves in the ass a little bit and get behind schedule there. And then the other thing we're doing is a sport and rec policy suite review. So the minister here has requested that we do a review of all multi-sport games. So we've had some discussions with our sport partners, being Sport North and Indigenous Sports Circle, and how this might look. And we expect that that will get initiated in the coming months. Looking at all games, not just Arctic Winter Games. We know there was challenges with the recent trials that have been identified. So we're hoping to come up with a plan how we can make sure that the games are meeting the needs of our residents, and and also making sure that we're following our own rules, what we want for the games, looking at eligibility requirements. And one of the things that we have to do is figure out a path to sustain the games, because the costs are increasing, the funding is decreasing, and those two things don't jive in the long term. So we need to make it sure that it's sustainable going forward. Community planning. This year we released the community planning framework. So this builds a shared understanding of how land use and development works in the Northwest Territories. The framework includes 8 guides, 7 of which are completed, and 1 is still in development. So what we're trying to do here basically is give you tools, more tools, so that when you're considering land use planning in your communities, that you can think about the long term. So just recently, we'll talk about flood mapping in a little bit, so I'll leave that one out. But thinking about things like climate change and archaeological site assessment, accessibility and age-friendly design. Let's just make sure that as you consider the long-term communities, that you have all these things in mind. Climate change, I mean, we're all subject to climate change, small communities as much or more than others. And we all know the North is impacted more than the rest of Canada and the rest of North America. But, make sure that when we're building a new residential area, that it is in the right location, that we've considered all the risks associated with climate change as things progress. And one of the other things that we are working on as well is this climate resilient coastal communities project. So NRCan has given us, I think it's $2.7 million to work with the coastal communities in the ISR to come up with a plan, and how do you have a planned relocation. So as the coastal erosion is happening, climate change is happening in those communities, we need to start thinking about what that looks like in 10, 20, 50 years from now. And obviously some communities, especially Talk, are feeling that right now. And how do we plan to, relocate those communities in the long term, or portions thereof the communities. Flood mapping. So we've recently completed with ECC and NWT AC. We're involved with this as well, I do believe, is flood mapping for 5 of 10 communities that are at risk. So flood mapping was completed and is live now on the website, along with the guides in Aklavik, Hay River, KFN, Fort Simpson, and the Henny Butte. As indicated, the communities here don't include the ISR. This is just for river. And the communities that we'll be working on are Fort Good Hope, McPherson, Liard, and JMR and Toledo. The new maps are 1 in 200 years, which, we're looking at how often the flooding should happen. But at the end of the day, it's becoming more restrictive. So there are less places to build, but if you are going to build in certain areas, you have to build in mitigations. Sorry about that. This is lining up with the DFAA, the disaster financial arrangements as well. They're going to be looking at 1 in 200 years as their standard. These maps haven't been updated since the 80s. So we see it as a good guide for as you're building new communities or new residential areas or business areas in your community that have more information, so we can build in a resilient way. One of the other things that's happening on that one is that the Canada is also working on a flood map finder, and basically what this is designed to do is so that the public map would be available so that you can go in and look at a site. So if Gary would go look at his property, see what the flood risk is on that property, that's supposed to go live sometime in this year. It was supposed to be last year, it's delayed. It allow anyone in Canada to go in and look at the risk that they have in their current location or in a new location. So that work hopefully will be made public in the next bit. Community government funding policy updates. So April 1, we did implement the new community allocation model, or CAM, to basically that work has been ongoing for a long time, and the minister wanted to have that implemented following working group meetings, 2014 working group and a 2022-2023 working group to update the information. It was implemented, and we've heard good, we've heard bad about that there. We are still working through some of the policies on this though. So last year, I think just before implementation, the SAO said to us, you guys need to allow us to ensure that staff housing is allowed under our community funding. So we said, yeah, no problem. Now we're just working on what does that look like? Does that mean your communities can have 2 houses for staff? They can have 5 houses for staff? Is it just the positions that are hard to hire? Maybe every community is different, so we're working through that there, hoping to come up with a plan here in this fiscal or next fiscal year and nail that down. And the other one, of course, is waste and water services as well, trying to ensure that communities are collecting the tax revenue or the fee for service that they can in their communities. So those will be the only policy updates that we're planning on the community government policies right now, and that won't impact funding in the next 3 years. So whatever those will just be policy updates, not funding updates. Federal infrastructure programs, new building Canada plan, which isn't very new because that was signed in about 2012. But we're on the back end of the small communities fund, 38 million bucks over the course of, I guess it turns into about 15 years. 22 projects complete, 5 canceled, 5 are in progress, and 3 had not started. I guess what I would highlight here is that if you have a project is in progress or not started, your project is currently at risk. You got 2 more construction seasons to get it finished. Canada has said that this is not going to be extended again. So if you do have a project, or if you're not sure, reach out to MACA. We can help you, but we need to get these completed. ISIP, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, 117 million bucks was available. Federal money was available. All of these funds were allocated. And I think that last I heard that about 50% of the money was spent and claimed back, which is good. That project goes on until about 2033. So we still have a few years, but let's just keep moving on those projects. CCBF, formerly known as gas tax, but everyone likes it when you say that. That was a signed 10-year agreement in 2024, I think. For the first 5 years is 94.5 million, and then we'll get an agreement for the next 5 years in a couple of years. One of the things to highlight on here is that the Housing NWT is working on a housing needs assessment, and this can be used by community governments who support planning, land development, capital planning, which can lead to reducing barriers and increased housing supply. So this money can be used to help with getting plots of land and other things for new houses in your communities, which we all know that land is an issue in basically all communities right now. Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund, or CHIF. So that was recently signed, 10-year agreement, 74 million bucks. We have committed about 4 million of that. I think that was a requirement that we commit 5% of that budget within 3 months of signing. One project has been approved on that there, and there's an open call right now for projects for 26, 27. Again, these are projects for items that support housing, including stormwater, wastewater, I think the landfills, that type of stuff. Yeah, so hoping to get those rolling out. There is a little bit of pressure coming from Canada on this fund to get that money committed as fast as possible. I think that the current government wants to, have some announcements. So they'll be looking for us to try to get these projects rolling quickly. I wanted to highlight this project because this in session, and when we go over there, I don't attend very often, but when we do go, we always get questions on, what are you doing with our landfills? So this is, I think what we would consider to be a successful project to date. So the Clean Up, Clean Start program was funded by ISIP and community governments. 27 communities signed on to this here to help clean up hazardous waste and scrap metal in landfills. I think all the hazardous materials and known hazardous materials have been removed from the landfills, although I do believe they're still being staged to try and ship out. You're trying to get some out by truck, trying to get MTS to help us get some out there. So the plan is to do that. I think there was just 2 communities left to move it out. Supposed to happen this year in the Winter Road, I think in the Clavic and the Handy View. And the next part of this is moving into the scrap metal. So it says here we have an estimate of 14,000 tons of scrap metal in landfills in the NWT. So that work is going to start here now, and hopefully we can start cleaning up that section as well. And then, of course, working with communities to make sure that we're doing the best we can to keep our landfills in a clean, I guess I'm not sure what the proper word is, but we want to make sure the stockpiles don't reoccur. So, and we're working with ECC. I think we have some guides and how to do some of that work. Emergency management. I think we talked about this already. So under the Emergency Management Act, you guys know this, but you're required to prepare and maintain your emergency plans each year. I just want to put a plug in that if you have an emergency plan that's not current, please reach out to us. We have regional emergency coordinators in every region that are there and willing to help. They can come in and do a workshop with you and your councils to go over what the emergency plan is. We'll help you draft the plan. And then, then you can bring it back to your councils for sign off. It's important, you guys know what this is. It's important to have this here. We know we're fighting against all kinds of other things in your communities, but we are there to help and support if you want to reach out and get those plans done. We've done a few in the past year. I think we've done 18 in the last year and a half. So, a lot of communities are up to date, but there's still a few outstanding there. So, and one of the things that we can do as well is come in and help with a tabletop exercise. Like, these tabletop exercises are designed to point out holes in your plan. I heard a guy in the military say, everyone got a plan, they get punched in the mouth. And, a forest fire is that punch in the mouth, or a flood is that punch in the mouth. So practice your plans and be ready when the time comes. Every time there's a disaster, we hear that we didn't know what to do from various folks in communities. And part of the reason is that we don't practice enough in the collective, GNWT as well. Our ICS training, so just want to highlight that we are doing ICS training. We've made a commitment to train 10% of our staff, and our minister has asked us to have a higher level than that within the department, which we have a target on that as well. We have a surge capacity in EMO, 137 people within the GNWT have put their names forward to say, hey, I'm willing to be redeployed. So we're training them on ICS, and we're doing another surge call currently to say, hey, we want more people on that list. The goal here is that we wanted to have a scalable organization so that we have people in various fields, various skills and abilities that when there is an emergency, they can be brought in to help. What that looks like on the ground is the person gets redeployed to our department. They no longer work in ECC or education or wherever. They're working for the EMO and under the direction of the ICS commander. So, and of course, we already spoke about the 2023 after action review. We also had an after action review on 2022, which was the flood. I think there was 38 recommendations. 5 of them were for community governments, 33 for the government, and we accepted 32 of the 33. With one recommendation that wasn't accepted in either one of those after action reviews is the next slide, the standalone agency. So our current structure, it allows us to be coordinated with all the GNWT departments. It's scalable, it's flexible, and it has the legislative authority to act independently. So the EMO head is an appointment in our legislation. So technically speaking, the ministers don't have any power over this person when a state of emergency is called. One of the things that, one of the reasons why we didn't accept this standalone agency is that we have GNWT support. We have this surge capacity. We have these 137 people and maybe others to come that we can have on call to go up when needed. And when not needed, what we want to do is work with your communities to make sure you guys are better prepared. So in our off season, we work with the communities, developing emergency plans, maybe doing tabletop exercises, trying to build a stronger foundation. And then when the time comes for disaster season, we get ready to roll and get ready to scale up as needed. And again, the regional emergency coordinators in the communities help, in the regions help with that work. And referenced earlier, but our EMO operates under an ICS, so incident command system. So when they're stood up, there is an incident commander. The incident commander has full authority. That person is in my department. I have no authority over that position. Once activated, they're in charge. I can say what I want. They can tell me to get lost, and there's nothing I can do about it. My job in an emergency is to stay out of the way. I'm not fully trained in ICS, although I'm partially trained, but I don't work in this world. Therefore, I shouldn't be involved in the decision making. Leave that to the people that know what they're doing. So. And that's what ICS is all about, is like we have people that are trained, qualified in these positions of authority, and they're the ones who need to make the decisions and not the guy sitting next to me. Not that he would ever do that. Pre-facility transport services. So I think there was, no, I think it's tomorrow morning. tomorrow morning, there's going to be a booth on this. I think they were here last year as well. So the GNWT doesn't have any mandate to provide ambulance services. No regulatory framework exists in the NWT. So this initiative is seeking to clarify roles and establish the authority and assess what money we need to, basically put in a pre-facility transport. This is something that we're hoping to move forward this summer in terms of looking for resources and trying not to overcomplicate something. We're trying to find something that communities can do. So like an ambulance requires a high level of training that may not be achievable in a lot of communities. So we're trying to find something that the local communities are, when trained, so whatever it's first aid or EMR training, have a model that is going to work in all communities, can be sustainable as well. I think we have ambulances now in 5 communities. I think there's maybe 6. Anyway, this is not an ambulance services. This is going to be run by communities, having members of the community doing this work. We have gathered data on the existing ambulance and patient transport services, and basically, we know that the biggest barrier to health, this is a big barrier in all your communities of getting people to the health center or from the health center to the airplane for medevac purposes. So we know that there, and hoping that we can have a positive result this summer. Public safety, so 911. So this last year, 17,000 calls, 12,000 emergency, 5,000 were not non-emergent. That's broken down into about 52% of the calls are for policing, 15% is emergency medical services, and policing is 2% and fire is 2%. 30% there, like I said, non-emergency calls. We do have a evaluation framework in place, and that monitors, staffing, financials, and also making sure that we are compliant with the accreditation protocols. 20% of our calls are audited every week, to make sure that we're meeting the standards that are required. Office of the Fire Marshal. So there is a recently developed training package for firefighting that has been, I'm not even quite sure has been shared yet. I should know that, but I don't. But this is something that we're trying to get out here now into communities. I think we have 19 or 20 active fire departments. Our goal obviously is to have an active fire department in every community. And you'll see in a couple of slides now that we did get some money back in the budgets for training for fire departments in communities. So we're hoping to roll that out here now, where we have some money to reimburse some folks that did some work this year, and next year have a more enhanced training plan. So yeah. Multi-sport games. So Arctic Winter Games happening here in a week, 10 days. We have a fund called the PASER Fund, Physical Activity and Recreation. Yeah, Physical Activity, Sport and Recreation Fund, which is basically paid for out of our lotteries, Western Canada Lottery Corporation. That money is going down. Cost of Arctic Winter Games and other sport things are going up, as mentioned earlier. So we went back to the government to seek funding for Arctic Winter Games. So $1.8 million was appropriated, and Sport North are managing that budget on our behalf. So because of the challenges with finances this year, a decision was made to streamline the Arctic Winter Games trials. I'm sure there'll be questions about that there. We're happy to speak to those there. The games happened in Yellowknife and Data, and that was it. So next week there'll be 357 participants attending the games. Multi-sport games review. So we know there's a resolution brought forward to return to the regional trials. So as indicated earlier, the minister has initiated, and this is something that was initiated before the resolution came in, but not that that matters. But the minister's been asking for lots of changes in multi-sport games, in particular Arctic Winter Games. We were able to implement a few things this year, but not as much as we had hoped. some changes around eligibility and gender equity and sports safety. Safety in sports, a key item that we're going to be holding all TSOs to going forward, and that's going to be a challenge for some of the smaller TSOs for sure. And sorry, a TSO is a territorial sport organization. But it's something that we're not going to bend on. This is something that is seen from recent news in Canada and across the world that we want to make sure that our kids are taken care of in these games. But we will be looking at trial formats. One of the things that we could do is just give the territorial sport organization, here's X number of dollars, go do your trials, come back, tell us who's on the team. We're looking at age limits potentially. But what we're doing mostly is turn this over to the experts in the field as our sport partners come back with some recommendations to the minister, say, hey, this is how you can improve this system. The plan is to reach out to community governments as part of this exercise is going to happen, to look for your feedback as well. And I think that was set up this morning out here as an interactive table. So hopefully some feedback was provided to them. Last item on the list for sports games is Canada Games 2035. So in 2022, the GNWT submitted a letter to the Canada Games Council saying, hey, we want to be part of a cycle of Canada Games. And this past summer, Canada Games Council came back to us and said, hey, we want you to host the 2035 Canada Winter Games. So what we've done is formed a committee. I started doing some work on that there to determine if there's something that the GNWT wants to support. Canada Winter Games is an expensive endeavor. In PEI, the 2023 games was $33 million operations, $14 million capital, plus they built a residence or two for the University of PEI. Economic impacts were high, though. It was over $200 million economic impacts to the province there as well. So we have a committee here. Its current members include MACA Sport North, Vision Sports Circle, City of Yellowknife, Chamber of Commerce. If this were to happen, Yellowknife would be the main host area, but we're also visited Canada Games Council here before Christmas, visited Hay River and I think Chateau. No determination has been had, but the games will need to be centered in Yellowknife, and other communities could be involved as well. So I just heard a rumbling of Fort Smith over here, and that's something that I actually had a discussion with the City of Yellowknife today about what other communities could be involved. What we need to do is to, confirm support from the government because it is a lot of money that is required to run this one here. So we're expecting to have that answer in June. And once we get that answer, then if it's positive, we'll start working towards a plan. We have to do a bid at that point in time, which is a larger document about what the games will actually look like. We are going to be reaching out to folks in terms of engagement here in the coming months to get some more information to feed the machine, so to speak. Jesus, that gotta be close. Budget 2026. So just a few highlights from the budget. Funding for team NT participation. So we've required, these items are not approved. So just to be clear, this will be determined in the next few days. The budget's under deliberations, and the budget will be passed by next Friday. But these are our wish list. $2.8 million a year for 3 years for sport and recreation. Part of this is to do the work that including multi-sport games review, but also trying to stabilize the PASER fund that was mentioned earlier. We don't have enough money now to feed all of our partners. And I know that community governments have requested more funding at this table last year. We don't have enough money for any of our partners or increase funding to community governments. So hoping that in the next couple of years, we can figure out a path forward so that we can increase funding for all. Emergency management support, $790,000 is for 3 positions and some O&M funds to the Emergency Management Act review. 2 of those positions will sunset in 28-29. And so, but 1 position ongoing to support the emergency management going forward. Research and engagement. This is the iGaming, 300,000 a year for 2 years, $600,000 total to do the work that's required to get to a regulatory process on iGaming. $270,000 for firefighting was just mentioned a few minutes ago. And then restructuring to enhance MAC's capacity. This is our Director of Finance position that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. For communities, we have $1.4 million, which is for CPI increases only. There was a request for more money, but there was a lot of tough decisions had to be made at the NWT. I think they had about $70 million budget for increases, and the request from all departments came in somewhere near $200 million. So ours was scaled back there. And support to complete claims for disaster assistance, $1.4 million. This is essentially the disaster recovery team. So disaster recovery, I'm finding out, is a long, drawn-out process where we're still dealing with 2021 claim and every year afterwards. 2022, the flood was a big one with the most damage to homes in the community. I think we still have about 130 files open there out of 507 that started off as. So still got a lot of work to do, hoping to nail down all of those disasters in the next couple of years. But it seems like that every year we get more disasters added to the plate. I'm going to stop right there and turn it over for questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know what to say about his report, but anyway, this is for Minister of MACA. Thank you to be here. Thank you to be with us. Half of, maybe more than half of what your Deputy Minister was talking about. I got no words because but that aside, in late August, early September, we had a storm surge in Tuk. Just for your information, Vince Teddy, Mayor of Tuktoyaktuk. And I spoke about this earlier with the federal minister, and just a few days before the storm surge happened, Premier and a few of his ministers were in Tuk, and we talked about it in a public meeting. And to put a long story short, no, you don't need to declare emergency. No, we know what's going to happen. Then it happened. And because of the DMAF, the Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund, it saved most of our community. Thank God for that. But there was a few areas that were devastated. A lot of our traditional areas, smokehouses and traditional equipment was washed away, lost. But for the housing units, thank God they were high enough that we were not affected too badly, but there was areas that we had to do a lot of work just to salvage property. And not only the community of Hamlet of Tuk worked at it, but the community corporation, which is our indigenous group, hunters and trappers, some other private businesses assisted, and we did the best we could. And there was still a lot of work days later to get it back to safety and health. We submitted letters to your office, Prime Minister's or Premier's office, and sorry, he never declared a state of emergency, so to speak, and we were lost for words for a while. in the community. When the DMAF, we just finalizing it now with the federal government, and we have work in the Inner Harbor yet to do. And we'll take a look at that and submit something to government on that. And when I say government, I don't know if that's going to include territorial, but I know federal is interested to help us. Your deputy talked about, I heard something about landfill a little while back. We have a garbage dump that we had years of trying to work with MACA territorial government to close it off, and we're still at it. We're still at it decades later. And a new landfill, we still have to work that out. There's a land swap that's supposed to happen with the NWT. But NWT is also a player in this landfill MACA business. So we need some help there. Emergency evacuation site, just because of what's going on in Tuck, because of climate change, storm surges. We need a new area for an evacuation site, just in case of another storm surge. And that's something that will be in dialogue and letters, I guess, and exchange, and how do we do that? So that's something that that is shortly on the horizon. The Inuvik Tuck Highway, the road closures, it's affected the community over the winter quite a bit. And now we're into another blizzard as I speak, and it's going to last over the weekend. So many road closures that supplies, groceries, medical transportation for passengers or for health residents to go out and get their health treatment comes to a halt. So that causes a lot of ripple effect for that individual. And I know that Department of Health is doing their best to accommodate road closures for Tuck. And we as a community wonder sometimes, okay, if the road closes more than how many days shall we call a state of emergency to get help? But it's there, that emergency situation is there. We need a response. I, as mayor, can't do it alone. I have my council, my administration to help me. I have the Inevaluate there to help me. We can do something together, but you also, as Minister of MACA, still has to reach out to us. Maybe just to give an example, 2 weeks ago, we had extreme cold weather, and we checked around as to what time do we call a kind of a closure to our own hamlet businesses, hamlet administration, because of extreme cold weather. We internally as a hamlet made more or less a decision that hamlet should close down when it's -50 or colder. And that has a ripple effect throughout the community. Government offices kind of follow what the hamlet does. The inevaluate system also follows suit. So in saying that, when extreme cold weather happens, sometimes infrastructure like the Northwest Power Corporation had a failure. And we were fortunate enough, though, even though it was extreme cold weather, road didn't close, so they came in. They had the part. They helped the local power resident worker to change the part, but there was a few hours of no power in the whole community of Tuktoyaktuk. And we as a hamlet was wondering, okay, if they don't change that part within a certain amount of time, what time do we call a state of emergency in extreme cold weather when there's no power, period? But thankfully, by the grace of God, the Power Corps changed the burnt out part, and we had power again. So those are things that are their life, their daily life struggles in a small community. And your deputy also talked about sports, northern sports, sports north, sports this, sports that. I'm an Inuvalik. My parents were Inuvalik grandparents, generations after generation. And we have northern games. And it's all oral history, all generational way of doing things. And a few decades ago, I think it was 2 or 3 decades ago, Sports North kind of pulled northern games into the fold of Sports North and started putting rules and regulations to our northern sports, our northern games. Over time, oral way of doing things, traditional way of doing things, kind of pushed out from an inevaluate perspective, just for northern games, northern sports. So you can see that as a territorial government throughout, just through Sports North, affects Indigenous, Aboriginal way of doing things. So I just thought I'd let you know that aspect, because even though we're a part of the NWT government as a hamlet, we're still an inevaluate community, and it affects the way we do things traditionally for generations. So that's there, and I thought I'd add that in. So thank you for listening to me, and let's work together to find solutions to our daily life. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there was a question, just I love hearing that stuff, because we don't know what's going on south of the lake, but we do hear your frustration, and that is scary stuff. It is life-threatening, -60 and no power. I believe Ray wants to speak next. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Before I ask a question or two, I wanted to recognize with respect to all of the mayors and the chiefs and leaders around the table, Yellowknife Dene First Nation Chief Ernest Vitsina has joined us. One of the things that he was lucky enough was to go to high school with a few of us around the table. I know a story about that. A couple of years back, he put published out news of the local leaders or the regional leaders in the Yellowknife area, but he neglected to put me as one of those. So we have a long history. I just wanted to touch up a little, I guess, I know it's not a common experience for a lot of the communities, more coastal than anything else with things like that are being impacted because of climate change. You know, the term community led, you know, it's often used in our region. We are the leaders in a lot of the research and projects that have been developing over the years with the establishment of our MPAs and parks. So we're taking the lead in a lot of ways. What we're finding, I guess, at the municipal level is an inability to really lead and have the flexibility to adapt to climate change impacts. Ours is snow. We get heavy snow loads now. Actually, we're just digging ourselves out. We had a meeting with the housing minister on Monday and our community leaders of how we're going to react to the current situation. And we were doing nicely. I got some nice pictures of how we're clearing ourselves, digging ourselves out. And then we were hit with another yellow storm warning, and we're in the middle of another blow. So, you know, the big thing is really the establishment of a policy to recognize snow in some way as a capital. You capitalize drainage because you have an asset there, you have physical. Snow, if we didn't have the snow, we wouldn't need drainage, basically. And that's what we're trying to establish. We've asked the help of our superintendent with other jurisdictions and how they're dealing with issues like that, because they're not as common and they're not out there with a lot of communities. We're unique, I guess, in a way that we're open. We have no snow protection. Now, we tried 3 different ways of building walls to keep the snow out. And because of the wind changes now, our prevailing winds were south. And now they're switching over more toward the west side. So again, establishing wind walls and that will not work because of that. And the location we're sitting at. But we need to find ways to establish policies that give communities more flexibility to react to impacts of climate change. And, you know, it's a hard ask because, you know, recognizing that snow is not an asset, you know, it come and goes, but it's how it impacts the community, flooding and drainage issues and erosions and, you know, it makes it hard for us with the lack of funding to address that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Any further questions, comments? Go ahead.
I get a chance to beat on Vince. I got to beat on him. I'm from Delaney, and we have the Delaney Goat in the government there. But you know, over the years, I've seen MACA transfer responsibility to the communities for certain things. Water treatment plant, for example. And, you know, the new water treatment plant they transferred to the community was, I don't know, I'm going to say cost $2-3 million back then. The company's no longer in business. You can't get parts for it. You got to replace it now. And I know there's funds there that we could access to try to get new infrastructure. I think MACA needs to play a bigger role in supporting the communities in accessing that stuff. That's one, but there's another one that gets transferred to the communities, and it's the garbage dump. And we seem to accept the fact that we take these responsibilities on because it's tied to funding that you would get. If you don't take it on, then you don't get the funding. But I think there's bigger liability issues that we need to take and pay attention to. You know, I did a series of tests in one of our lakes where we realized that a lot of the sewage and the garbage has been kind of draining into the community, into the into the lake over the years because all we do is bury garbage. That's the practice and that's the norm in the north. And a lot of other communities deal with that. But we started realizing that, you know, the losh in the lake started disappearing, and, you know, we used to set nets and go losh fishing. Well, we find we got the lake is full of bioplastics now. The garbage dump has changed from, you know, the old conventional paper bags to a lot of plastics. And I think we need to start paying attention to that type of stuff because, you know, if you've taken a responsibility on the garbage dump, that's your responsibility. Unless MACA is going to step up and say, well, we'll take that responsibility on. So it's things like this that we need to start paying attention to. We do get gas tax and CPI funding to deal with all our infrastructure also. So obviously, I think almost every municipality in the north can say that's certainly not enough money to try to keep up with our aging infrastructure. We have, you know, roads that are sinking now because of permafrost. We have, you know, ditches that don't drain water anymore because the roads are not at the same level anymore, and it's big money to try to keep up to the aging infrastructure, and there's lots needs to be replaced, and there's more I can talk about, but you know, these are some major issues that I think people need to start paying attention to. I'm not looking for a response, but I'm just starting to ring the bell and say, look, guys, you know, if you're dealing with your own garbage dumps, you know, there's a lot of plastics in it, and the garbage dump in Sewer Lagoon from where our lake is you know, probably 2 miles, and the other one's 5 miles. So it's great distance, but it's reaching the lake. And so I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Thank you. Go ahead, Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Minister and the Deputy Minister for the presentation. Incredibly informative as always. A couple questions. First, to the Senior Citizens and Disabled Tax Assessment Act. I see it's a discussion paper. Should we expect it to become an LP within the term of the 20th Assembly?
That is the plan, to have that ready for the 20th Assembly, yes.
Excellent. And when can we expect the discussion paper to be distributed to the communities for our own assessment?
Yeah, I don't really have an answer for that there. We just started as I mentioned, we're a bit late to the game getting started on this one here. It is been noted as a legislative priority for the coming finish off in this government. So we should be coming in the next few months, but we're literally just getting going on that project right now, to be honest with you. Yeah.
And I very much appreciate that, Mr. Deputy Minister. I think it's going to be an incredibly important piece of legislation, especially where the current tax abatement in our Asian population is for the eventual need to means test. Second, to, I guess, third, can I get an explanation of the reasoning of why the department should determine the number of staff housing we should have? I could see just determining the policy to say that we could have it, but I would think that would be an authority of the municipality and the community government to determine exactly how many we need.
Yeah, so I guess that first of all, MACA is not in the housing business. So our community funding is for municipal services, and housing is not necessarily a municipal service. We have a department that does housing. So, you know, so we fund for municipal services. Our goal is that, yes, we want to support communities to determine we have retention needs. So we were told by your SAOs that, you know, we need staff housing because it's a recruitment and retention issue. We need a position for the housing and or for the SAO in some communities, and other communities says for the mechanic and blah, blah, blah. Like we want to make sure that communities are not using our funding for housing for residents because it's not a municipal service. So we have our policies. Housing is outside that policy. We've adopted into that there. So now we just want to make sure that we put some guardrails around it as per the communities. This could be something each community decides on, right? We've done a survey, we have some intel. So that's the rationale, though, is that we're not in the housing business.
And I very much appreciate that. Thank you again to the Minister and to the Deputy Minister.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My name is Cheryl Klee. I'm from the village of Fort Simpson. I just wanted to mention I want to echo concerns about the dump as well. I think most of our communities are dealing with that. I know past practices haven't been haven't been very environmentally friendly, and now that we have that knowledge base, we're really struggling with how we are going to maintain the life of and span of our dumps. I'm not sure what MACA is doing. I would like to recommend to MACA that maybe because there are a few concerns, that's something your department might want to go around and inspect some of these dumps with an expert in that field. I do like the fact that there is looking at the Gaming Act, because it's very dated, and I think some of that stuff can definitely move to the communities so that the community can get revenue from that by providing licenses to community organizations, non-for-profits. That might be helpful to us, and I think it would be better at monitoring monitoring who's getting the license, how the money is being spent and such, because I don't think there's a good track record of that with MACA when it comes to like lottery licenses, bingo licenses, especially in the Decho where we are not self-government. We're still under the administration of the GNWT. So I'm not sure what we can do, but I would like us to talk about how we can bring some of that licensing for bingos to the community. I would like to see that happen. The other big thing I wanted to talk about was property taxes, the grants in lieu, and that is for, my understanding is that is for the Indigenous members of the community to pay for IAB lands within the community. And I know in Fort Simpson, we're struggling to get those taxes paid because a lot of the people that owe money on property taxes are a lot of the Dene people who came off the land so that their kids could go to school, and they didn't understand the concept of land taxes and stuff, and municipal boundaries being moved like at least 3 times in my lifetime. And so a lot of traditional Dene, I call them because they come from the land, have thousands of dollars worth of taxes owing to the municipality. And my concern is that we will never see that money. And so I'm wondering what MACA can do to help communities who are in that situation of never having to recoup that land taxes from people who have passed on and people who are only Indigenous language speaking citizens of the community who ended up with a lot of land taxes that they didn't understand. So I'm just wondering what we can do as a community to work with MACA to resolve that issue on our books, and not just our books, but for the families who are very stressed about that, you know, seeing their families' names up every other year when we're trying to collect land taxes in our community. That's just like rehashing old wounds almost like. So just wondering what can we do to make that make some sort of change on the books to make sure that, you know, we're working together so that as an institution of the community, that we're not always having our books showing that all this money is owed, but that we'll never get back ever in my lifetime anyway. So just wondering what MACA can do about that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, I heard you talking about the sports and stuff. So what I notice is that a lot of the small communities have to fundraise and travel to Yellowknife to do the trials. How about Sport North goes to the communities to witness the trials? So that might save communities some money, and that might be able to, the budget might be able to handle the people going to the communities. So I just wanted to offer a little bit of a solution, not so much go on about the problems in our communities. And yes, the sports and rec policy is very dated, and I'm really hoping that the GNW, the government departments will look at existing policies and when review them, are they pertinent and still relevant to governance of 20 years ago? Or is it, how can we make it relevant to today? Because we know that our communities are changing. Wellness is a big part of our endeavors now in our communities, and wellness, recovery, sobriety. So wondering how policy can shift to reflect those kinds of movements to positive living in our communities. So I just wanted to add that I hope that you will take all our concerns and really be serious about wanting solutions for our communities, because I think a lot of, this is my first time here, but I'm born and raised in the north, and these issues have been ongoing my whole life. Nothing's really changed. So I'm hoping, and that's why I come to these roles, because I think I don't know, these concerns aren't being addressed or informed to our political leaders. But I hope that, this forum is the place to do so, because we don't just represent the municipality, we represent the citizens within the municipality, and it's very diverse citizenship, because we have Dene people, we have non-Dene, we have new visitors coming to our community, and that is also bringing in some social concerns as well. Housing is less than, we have more of our own people on living in homeless shelters and warming shelters. So really quite concerning for me that Dene people and people of the community are being displaced to cover, resources for those who are coming to our community to work. So I just wanted to add that. And thank you for hearing me. I appreciate it. Merci.
Thanks, Cheryl. So that is going to conclude our meetings. I don't want to shut anyone down, but you are going to have an opportunity to speak to Vince. Oh yeah, you can speak to that. But you will speak to Vince again tomorrow in the Bear Pit.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday, and the last thing you want to do is listen to a politician, even though we're all politicians. But just quickly, I just want to elaborate on a few things. First of all, I hear all your concerns, and I've lived it. I've been there, and I hear it. So when I'm in the cabinet room, when I'm in meetings, and when I'm meeting with a federal minister, I'm echoing these words, and I do take them to the federal meetings. I do take them. I know you spoke that Minister Olszewski just had a meeting with you guys today, and that's awesome that she appeared. And I've got good connections with her. I've texted with her quite a few times, and I'm able to reach out when I have issues like the DFAA and the DAP applying. For TUC, we have issues there. And I will say, hopefully we have some good news for you soon about that. So I'm excited, for that. These things just don't end, even though you don't hear about it. I'm always still kind of battling in the background and trying to push some of this stuff through. Gary just laughed because he's like, yeah, he does. Landfills. So landfills are a huge issue. We have a lot of work going on in different departments. ECC is working with landfills. We're working with landfills. So everybody's kind of involved government wide. And definitely a concern overall. I know we've cleaned up a lot of the landfills, but if you have concerns about landfills or anything in your regions, please reach out to your regional superintendents and find a path forward to work on these landfills. There is, I think there is a lot of opportunity in cleaning some of those up. You know, just briefly, again, talking about sport and recreation, just because it was raised a few times. You know, I've asked to review a few of the items in Sport North and the whole sports you know, world of the Northwest Territories, and a lot of the concerns shared are my concerns also. And that's part of the reason why I've asked for a review. And you know, I'm gonna be here tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow for the pit. I'll be hanging around here probably all day tomorrow. If you have any suggestions, I want to hear them, because there is opportunity, I think, to make some good changes. You know, land taxes, I don't have a whole bunch to say about land taxes. I know there's issue about, you know, collecting land taxes and stuff. I've addressed the concerns about ownership of land, and when somebody passes away, that land stays there and we're not able to change the title. So, you know, we have work to do with that also with ECC. What else were we talking about? ITH, sorry, the ITH, New Tuck Highway. I spent every day on the phone over the Christmas holidays, over the ITH, Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, and rightfully so. I mean, to me, if you're having to deal with that, then I should be having to deal with that as a Minister of Infrastructure. That's my job, and you know, I worked with the department over the holidays to try to, you know, continually keep that road open. Paulituck, all the coastal communities are all dealing with very, very weird weather. Speaking to a lot of the people around there, you know, different winds and you know, the stuff that you guys have to deal with. And I will say, we are listening. I know housing is very active in some of the community issues on housing. And I've asked the department to work with the communities on supporting on trying to dig you guys out. Overall, you know, again, tomorrow I'm around. You're more than welcome to hit me up while I'm here, and the Bear Pit again tomorrow. So with that, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Minister McKay and Deputy Minister Brandon. So this brings us to the end of our day. Tonight is a free night for everyone to make sure you get out there. It's a little cold to get out there, but give it a try. We start tomorrow at 8:45, so please come and join us, and hope you enjoy your evening.